I was in the kitchen pouring coffee when my phone buzzed. I didn't hurry to check it. I assumed another sale alert or a forwarded meme from Zara. When I finally looked, his name was on the screen. Daniel. One message. You are not coming with us to Europe. My mother prefers this vacation to be a family vacation only. I froze. I must have read it 10 times. Not coming with them. I glanced at the 3 neatly packed suitcases by the front door. One of them mine. For the last 2 weeks I'd been helping Daniel plan this trip, booking hotels, arranging tours, even making sure his mother's favorite spa was reserved. And now I wasn't invited. I sank onto the edge of the couch, phone still in my hand. My fingers felt numb. The silence in the house grew louder. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he meant someone else, or it was a bad joke, but there was no follow-up. Just that single, cold line. Not coming with us. Family vacation only. So that was my place now. Not family. My mind raced through everything I'd done for Daniel. I remembered him 3 years earlier, standing in our garage, devastated because his startup was failing. He thought it was over. I didn't hesitate. I wired the $700,000 I inherited from my father straight to Daniel's account. No contract, no shares, just trust. That's what you do for family. But apparently I wasn't family. I walked into his office. Everything there had been paid for with the money I gave him. The custom leather chairs, the framed world map dotted with pins from business trips, even the espresso machine he bragged about. Every piece seemed to whisper, Sophie built this, and now I was being told to stay home like an unpaid assistant. I opened the family group chat with his mom and sister. Messages had been flying for days, packed bag photos, nail appointment selfies, jokes about matching outfits. Not once had they mentioned me not coming. It was as if I didn't exist. Daniel didn't even speak to me in person, just that text. I went upstairs. Our bedroom was immaculate. I'd even left his passport and tickets on the dresser for both of us the night before. I sat on the bed and stared at the carpet. For a long while I didn't cry. I felt everything and nothing at once. My heart weighed like wet cement. Then something shifted. I thought about what I'd given up. My bakery dream shelved. The $700,000 I put into Daniel's failing business. Weekends spent on his marketing plan. Being sidelined whenever his mother made a snide remark and him telling me to ignore it. And now they were off to Europe without me, while I sat at home with my suitcase ready. No, I wouldn't just cry. I stood in front of the mirror. My eyes were dry, but there was a quiet storm inside them. If I wasn't family enough to join the trip, maybe I wasn't family enough to keep supporting their comfort. Maybe it was time to remind Daniel, who built this life. I won't claim the text was the first red flag. The cracks had been forming. I kept smiling, cooking dinners, staying out of the way, hoping things would smooth over. The Europe trip had been my idea, suggested 6 months earlier as a surprise reward for Daniel. After a business milestone, I pictured us wandering cobbled streets, sharing pastries, laughing like before. Then his mother found out. At first it was subtle. Oh, that sounds lovely. I've always wanted to see the Amalfi Coast. Evelyn said at a family dinner. I offered to invite her. Then his sister chimed in. What started as a trip for 2 became a group tour for 5, then 6. I was asked to shift my schedule for everyone's convenience. I was told not to book hotels because Evelyn had better taste. Decisions began to funnel through her. Daniel stayed silent. I brushed it off at first, telling myself it was only a vacation and we'd still enjoy it together. But the exclusion kept growing. A new group chat was created and I wasn't added. Sarah showed me screenshots. Daniel's sister accidentally sent family dinner plans, spa days, excursions, all made without me. When I asked Daniel, he shrugged. It's just easier to plan without too many voices. Too many voices? I was the one who started the trip. Still, I bit my tongue to avoid drama and to not give Evelyn more ammunition. Deep down, I noticed a pattern. Evelyn had never liked me. Since the day I married Daniel, she acted like I'd taken something from her, like I wasn't good enough, too independent, too opinionated. She once told me, to my face, that I wasn't the kind of woman who makes a man feel needed. Daniel laughed. Now here I was, passport and suitcase ready, while they took off without me. Evelyn didn't want me there. Daniel didn't advocate for me. He sent a message and left. That was the day I stopped pretending. I stopped defending them in my head, and saw things for what they were. They never considered me family. I was a wallet, a helper, a background character. Not anymore. If they could cross the world and forget me, I could show them how much I mattered. The morning after they left, I didn't cry. I barely slept, replaying the trip, the text, the years I'd handed away to prove I was enough for people who never truly saw me. By dawn, I was done feeling sorry. I made tea, opened my laptop, and searched for the law firm that handled Daniels Incorporation 3 years ago, the firm I had found and paid for. I remembered because I'd arranged and funded much of it. When his business was collapsing, I wired the $700,000 inheritance that night. Every penny, with no prenup, no agreement, just trust. Sitting there that morning, a sick feeling settled in. I had no signed papers, no partnership agreement, no loan terms, no ownership records. It had all been verbal. I booked a meeting with a lawyer Zara had used during her divorce. Nana, sharp, precise, unflinching. In a glass office downtown, I placed a folder of transaction records, emails and screenshots on the desk. She looked through them and asked gently, "Do you want to fight for ownership, or are you ready to burn it down?" I hesitated. I didn't know. I just knew I wouldn't be silent. Nana scanned the documents. "You're not listed anywhere in the business structure. Not as a partner, not as an investor, not even as a consultant." The sting of invisibility came back. Then she added, "But he never protected his assets properly. While the name is his, many key contracts, leases, and vendor accounts are still in your name. That gives you leverage." Leverage. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of power. Na laid out options: sue, file a marital claim, or act while he and his family were abroad and distracted. I left the office with a new resolve. Daniel had assumed I was too soft to push back. Evelyn thought I'd never draw a line. They were wrong. That night, I reviewed the financials. I still had access to the books. Surprise, I was still listed as the primary contact on many accounts. Daniel never bothered to change that. He'd been living the lifestyle: luxury cars, designer suits, first-class flights, funded by me. I was done being the unpaid engine behind his success. If they could erase me from their vacation, I could remove myself from their foundation and take a few bricks with me. The underestimated advantage is people rarely see you coming. While Daniel and Evelyn sipped rosé on a Santorini balcony, I got to work. No tears, no calls. Just action. I began with the office lease. The business operated from a trendy co-working building. When we signed, I had used my name and credit to secure the space, because his credit was poor, and the landlord insisted I co-sign. At the time, I didn't think twice. I just wanted him to succeed. Now that decision gave me leverage. I called the building manager, introduced myself, and casually asked when the lease renewal was due. It had already auto-renewed under my name. Perfect. Next, I contacted Daniel's accountant, introduced myself as Sophie, and said I was reviewing things while he was away. People hand over information when you sound composed and in control. Bank accounts, vendor contracts, digital assets, much of it was still tied to me. Daniel had overlooked the loose ends while enjoying the spoils. Now I held many of them. I didn't want chaos. Not yet. I wanted a plan that left no room for dispute, a legal, undeniable demonstration of what happens when you erase the person who built you. That's when Zara showed up. 2 iced coffees, laptop open, wearing a tee that read "Plotting in Progress." We sat at the dining table like 2 people with a job to do. Zara handled the operational side. She found a broker to quietly evaluate and market assets, helped me freeze any company cards tied to my name, and suggested something I hadn't considered. "Why not rent the house?" she asked. At first I blinked. Our house? She nodded. It's yours too, while they're away. Legally lease it short term, earn a little, clear the energy. Maybe even throw a party. I laughed until I realized she meant it. We listed the place. I ordered professional photos, decluttered and posted it on a luxury vacation rental site. Calendar blocked for exactly the week. Daniel and his family were due back. 2 days later it was booked. A group of young tech entrepreneurs from out of state who paid extra for full use of the property and even requested a fridge stocked with champagne. I agreed to everything. Meanwhile, I kept working with Nina, my lawyer. She filed papers to separate my name from Daniel's business debts and quietly reroute my share of assets. I refused to remain his silent investor. If I couldn't be seen as family, I'd rather watch it all fall apart than stay invisible. And all the while Daniel filled social media with sunlit photos, matching linens, wine tastings, sunset smiles. Not one message to me. They assumed I was at home, distraught. Instead, I was setting the stage. I methodically untangled myself from every corner of the life I'd helped build, reclaiming what was mine, not with spectacle, but with careful, legal steps. So when they returned, they'd find a house that looked familiar but no longer belonged to them. Everything moved faster than I expected. By the fifth day, the broker had 2 buyers for the company, a local investor and a corporate travel group. I accepted the higher offer. That morning, I signed the transfer papers and watched the buyer's wire land in my account. The business Daniel had begged me to save was no longer his, and he had no idea. I didn't warn him. I didn't leave a note. If he could tell me I wasn't family in a text, he didn't deserve explanations. He deserved the same silence he gave me on the plane. The house was the more satisfying part. Zara and I prepped it while the renters arrived. One of them asked if they could host a few friends. I replied, "Go all out, it's your home for the week." By 7 p.m. Music filled the neighborhood, colored lights blinked through the windows, cars lined the street, and someone hauled in a karaoke machine. Zara and I watched from her car across the road, sipping sodas like undercover observers. Inside, strangers danced in the living room, the same room Evelyn once mocked as middle-class hotel decor. A woman in glitter heels stood where Daniel had once told me to keep my voice down, in front of his mother. 2 people posed for selfies in the kitchen, where I'd cooked multi-course meals for people who never thanked me. Nothing was damaged. The house simply felt alive again, full of energy it hadn't seen in years. I stepped into the front yard, listened to the music, and smiled. Kenny, the renter who booked it, waved from the porch. "You Sophie?" he called. "Yep," I answered. "You sure you don't mind the party?" he asked. "Not at all," I said. "It's exactly what this place needed." He invited me in. I declined. I didn't need to be in the center of the crowd. I had already won. That night I got an alert. Daniel charged a private driver in Prague on my credit card. For 544, I logged into the bank app and disabled the card. Then I closed every account linked to my name. Cards, subscriptions, even the phone line. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at the house. The people inside had no clue who Daniel or Evelyn were. That was the point. It was no longer their world, and it wasn't mine to fill for them anymore. 2 days later they came home early after a canceled flight. It didn't matter. The house was still rented and the company long gone. Selling the business had been simpler than I imagined, because Daniel never formalized ownership. He talked big, CEO leadership quotes, expensive suits, but legally the company was a mess. He registered an LLC, yes, but many operational contracts, leases and accounts were under my name because at the start he had no credit and no funding. When Nina reviewed the documents, she said, "Technically, you control much of the operational structure. If you step away, it collapses." So I acted. I contacted the corporate travel firm Nina had introduced and offered the whole system: client list, booking platform, vendor contracts. Take the engine, leave the name. They bid. I signed under my name, payment hit my personal account, and a clause barred Daniel from contacting the company's clients for future ventures. Everything he'd built with my money now belonged to someone else, legally and quietly. By the time their plane landed, Daniel's email accounts were locked, his business number routed elsewhere, and the company website redirected to the buyer. When they pulled up and found strangers partying in the living room, Zara and I were already on the sidewalk. Daniel got out first. Tired, tanned, smug. Evelyn followed in silk and sunglasses. Daniel's jaw dropped when he saw people on the porch. He stormed up the steps. "Can I help you?" one renter asked. "This is my house," Daniel snapped. The renter frowned. "No, it's rented for the week by someone named Sophie." Daniel turned and found me standing calmly by the curb. "Sophie," he said, voice rising. "What's happening?" Evelyn rushed forward, heels clacking. "Why are there strangers in our home?" I didn't raise my voice. I handed Daniel a folder. He flipped through legal documents, his face draining. "These are business transfer papers," he said, stunned. "Yes," I answered. "The business is sold, the funds are in my account." "You can't do that. That company is mine," he protested. "No," I said, steady. "You never made it official. I held the leases, the systems, the vendors. You were the face. I was the foundation." He opened his mouth. I cut him off. "You excluded me from your life, your family, and your vacation. Now see what happens when you exclude the person who built everything." Evelyn gasped dramatically. "You're punishing him for a misunderstanding. This is cruel." I faced her. "No, Evelyn. The cruel thing was pretending I wasn't family after everything I gave up to support your son." She seemed ready to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I handed Daniel one more paper, the rental agreement. "The house is legally leased for 4 days," I said. "You are not allowed inside." "You're kicking us out," he stammered. "No," I corrected. "I'm giving you what you wanted, a family vacation without me." I took Zara's arm and we walked away. The music thumped, and Daniel stood frozen with paperwork that proved everything he had was no longer his. It's remarkable how quickly people change their tone when they realize they're no longer in control. The day after they returned, Daniel called 6 times. I ignored him. On the 7th call, he left a voicemail, voice trembling, begging, "Sophie, please, we need to talk. Can we fix this?" Fix what? Exactly. The marriage. The business he forgot was built on my back. The lie that his mother wanted a family-only vacation, as if I hadn't been the one who stood by him when he had nothing. That sentence, "You are not coming," echoed. So I gave them what they wanted. A family vacation without me. And when they returned, I showed them what that meant. That week I met with my lawyer and filed for separation. Not out of spite, but because I was done shrinking, done forgiving without change, done holding up a life they claimed as theirs while I slipped to the margins. Daniel tried everything. Flowers, tearful voicemails, pleading through Zara. Zara told him the truth. "You kicked out the person who built this house, and now you're locked outside." When the rental ended, I didn't move back. I signed a short-term lease for a high-rise downtown. Big windows, quiet mornings, my own space for the first time in years. I put the house back on the rental market at premium rates, with long weekends booked months ahead. I used the proceeds to open the bakery I'd shelved. It wasn't extravagant, a cozy corner shop named Sophie's Place. People came for the pastries and stayed for the atmosphere. One afternoon, while arranging the display case, Zara sent a photo, Daniel and Evelyn standing outside the house with suitcases. The caption read, "Looks like someone forgot to book a hotel again." I smiled. They still didn't understand. This wasn't revenge, it was clarity. I was stepping out of the role they'd boxed me into, the helper, the invisible one. Now I wasn't invisible. I was gone. A week later, Daniel came into the bakery. Different, thin, nervous. He stood across the counter. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he offered. "I thought you'd always be there," he said. I nodded. "That's the thing, Daniel. I was always there until you made it clear I wasn't wanted." He asked if we could go back. I looked at the fresh bread, the soft music, the customers smiling. "No," I answered gently. "But I'm not angry. I'm free." He didn't argue. He stood a moment longer, then left. Zara came in after him, and grinned. You okay? She asked. I nodded. For the first time in a long time, we sat by the window, two old friends sharing quiet contentment. I used to think losing everything would destroy me. The truth is, walking away from people who never saw your worth is when you begin to rebuild.